Michaela Chester for NCAA Digital. Today I'm joined by co-editors of D1 Baseball, Aaron Fitt and Kendall Rogers. Thank you guys so much for joining me. They just released their D1 Baseball Top 25 preseason rankings this week, and we're going to break it down ahead of the preseason. We've got a lot to look forward to. So my first question for you guys. Florida finished out as your number one team at the end of that shortened 2020 season. Now they're back on top for this preseason ranking. So give me a few reasons why the Gators are your top team.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason is that they're just loaded in every area. To get right to the heart of it, I mean, there's no discernible weakness with this club. I think it has a chance to be one of the most talented teams we've ever seen in college baseball, just because of the way the shortened draft worked out. You get Tommy Mace back, you get Jack Leftwich back. Those are two, high caliber arms that in any other year they almost surely would have lost to the draft. Instead, they're back for a fourth season on campus, which just adds to that incredible pitching depth that they have. I think it might be the best bullpen in the country. They can just run one power arm after another at you, and they only got stronger with the recruiting class they brought in. Franco Alamon is an example of a high-powered JUCO arm that's going to step right in and just add more depth to that bullpen. But offensively, I really believe it's the best offense in the country too. I mean, it's hard to pick what this team's greatest strength is. Because they're probably 14 guys deep in the lineup. They can only play 9 at a time, so good luck figuring that out. But incredible amount of power in this lineup. Judd Fabian, I think, is one of the best all-around players in the country, who's kind of your centerpiece guy. But there's a lot of veteran pieces around him: Corey Acton and Kendrick Callowell, some of these older players who've been 3-year starters, and then you plug in some more talented newcomers like Sterling Thompson and Colby Halter, and the rich just got richer.
Sounds like some good reasons to me. Kendall, I'll go to you on this one. Let's talk about the rest of the top 5. We've got UCLA, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, and Louisville. Why are these teams such strong contenders in your eyes?
Yeah, I think the big thing with UCLA is just a really balanced offensive club. I think when you combine that with the weekend rotation with the Zach Petway, Nick Nastrini, Jesse Bergen, and then you look at the back end of the bullpen with Kyle Mora and Sean Mullen. There's a lot to like about UCLA's club. I think when you look at Texas Tech, just a really balanced offensive club. Micah Dallas, who began this in the bullpen last year, returns to the starting rotation this spring. Him, Mason Montgomery, Ryan Sublette on the back end. There's a lot of weapons for Texas Tech's pitching staff. That's just a really balanced club. Balance is kind of the name of the game with these teams. Vanderbilt, when you look at Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter on the front end of that rotation, we talk so much about Jack Leiter, but, he still has not started an SEC game. So I'm fascinated to see how this, fab returning freshman does this spring. And then you look at Ethan Smith on the back end of that rotation. That's an intriguing weekend rotation. And then, of course, offensively, I know Aaron loved what he saw at Isaiah Thomas in the fall. And, of course, you look at Louisville with the return of Alex Pinellas. He was injured early last year. He's healthy now. You get him back, and then you move Michael Curian to the weekend rotation. And keep an eye on Glenn Albanese. He's a big-time arm, moves into that Friday role for the Cardinals. He's going to be their X factor on the mound. He might be the X factor for their season.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's a weird year. We had a shortened 2020 season. Now we're coming off of this post-COVID era, hopefully. What are some main storylines that you guys see going into this year with such a weird year?
Yeah, I think navigating, obviously, the minefield that is the COVID era is going to be a challenge, and we're going to have teams that are going to walk into a weekend series without all the players that they expected to have. And so I think depth matters. And certainly, everybody, it seems like, is deeper across the country this year than ever because those roster caps have been relaxed. The scholarship restrictions have been relaxed because you have so many players coming back due to that shortened draft last year. And so I think college baseball is going to be stronger than it's ever been from coast to coast because there's just so much talent back in the game right now.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say, too, is just keep an eye on these teams with a lot of seniors. You think back at the Coastal Carolina a few years ago when they won the national championship. They had a lot of juniors and a lot of seniors on that team. There are a lot of teams out there in college baseball right now that have several returning seniors. TCU, a top 10 team that has, 5 to 6 returning fifth-year seniors. So keep an eye on these teams that have seniors. I think those are the clubs that have a chance to surprise some people this spring.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your guys' answer to this question because it does feel like we lost a lot of top names that we were so excited to see last year to the draft this year. I mean, we're talking Spencer Torkelson, Austin Martin, Emerson Hancock, all those names that we were so excited to see. Season got cut short. Who are some names this year that we might not know now that are going to step up big this year, in your opinion?
Well, I'm going to start with a trio of players at Boston College, which, of course, is not really a program that you think of as a traditional power in college baseball. They were in a super regional a few years back, but this is kind of their year. They've got 3 third-year players now who I think, frankly, could all go in the first round. I mean, that's how much talent this team has. Sal Frelick, the dynamic center fielder, Cody Morissette. You can put him at second base. You can put him at third base. You can put him at shortstop. You can put him wherever you want. He's going to hit. I think he's one of the best pure hitters in the country. And then, of course, Mason Pelio, who's going to be their Friday night guy this year. They call him Moose. He's been a rock for them for the last couple of years, but now it's his turn to really shine. That's a team that's really fascinating to me just based on pro potential.
Yeah, and I think for me, I look at Jaden Hill at LSU. He's a guy that certainly scouts know, but he's a guy that last year, started the year in the bullpen. He was hurt 2 years ago at the start of the season, but last year out of the bullpen had some of the most electrifying stuff I've seen. I'll tell you what, if he has that kind of stuff this spring, not only can he be a top 5 pick in the draft, he could easily be one of the top 1 or 2 pitchers in college baseball, along with guys like Kumar Rocker. Keep an eye on Jaden Hill. And then Jordan Wicks at Kansas State, to me, is a really intriguing arm to watch as well. And the last guy for me, for people to keep an eye on, would be Christian Franklin. At Arkansas over the last couple of seasons, it seems like someone just passes the torch on to the next guy. Last year was Heston Kjerstad. I think Heston Kjerstad's passing that torch over to Christian Franklin in Arkansas. He's a big reason why Arkansas is expected to finish in the top 10 and potentially vie for another spot in the College World Series. And I'm going to put Aaron on the spot here, Michaela. He did not mention Richard Fitts.
That's my guy. Richard Fitt at Auburn, I think is the next, first-round pick for the Tigers. They had Casey Mize a few years ago. They had Tanner Burns. Richard Fitts kind of took that next step forward this fall. Big, physical righty. Looks how you draw it up, for your frontline workhorse ace. Mid-90s guy, really commands a fastball. Secondary stuff is coming. He can really pitch.
All right, I'm going to let you guys now talk about the guys we do know, the Kumar Rockers of the world. Can you each give me your pick for maybe a Player of the Year candidate?
I'll go first. Obviously Rocker is the obvious name if you're looking at the pitching side of it. But I'm going to give you, I mentioned Jed Fabian earlier from Florida. I think he's a really dynamic player. But I'm going to give you somebody that, maybe is out of sight, out of mind if you're an SEC fan. But Matt McClain at UCLA has already been a first rounder. Out of high school. And he played center field his first year, really struggled. They moved him to shortstop, and he got off to a strong year offensively last year. He's kind of the linchpin for a really, really good UCLA club. That's a pretty exciting player that I think is about to really come into his own as a third-year guy.
Yeah, and I think for me, 2 guys to keep an eye on would be Adrian Del Castillo at Miami and Ty Madden at Texas. If you look at Miami, that's one of those clubs that could really be very good, be in the top 10 range, or it's one of those clubs that you could see finishing in the 20 to 25 range, or perhaps unranked, just because there's so much young talent on the mound. So Adrian Del Castillo, just such a huge key. If he has a big year offensively, and let's say Miami finishes in the top 10, he's got a really good shot to win that Player of the Year award. Ty Madden, for me, when you look at the Longhorns, that 1-2 punch on the weekend with Ty and Pete Hansen is as good as it gets in college baseball. Again, if Texas does what we expect and gets in position to get a spot in the College World Series, Ty Madden's one of those guys we could be talking about as potential pitcher of the year.
The fun part, we're going into predictions. I'm going to have you each pick a Cinderella pick, maybe a team that you think can win the title or go all the way. Kendall, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know about going all the way, but in terms of just getting to Omaha, like Southern Miss is really intriguing to me. I know Aaron saw them in the fall. I think we both kind of went away from our top 25 deliberations to liking their club. I think when you look at their pitching staff with Hunter Stanley, Gabe Shepard, and Walker Powell, when Walker Powell is your Sunday guy with all the innings that he's logged over the years, that has a chance to be a really good weekend rotation. That could be a team to watch. And I would also say keep an eye on Connecticut. They do a terrific job over there. Jim Penders has another really talented club. You look at the return of a guy like Pat Winkle. Ben Kasparius, a transfer from North Carolina, had a great fall on the mound. Josh McDonald does a tremendous job with their pitching staff. If guys like Kasparius, do what they did in the fall this spring, and the returning guys for UConn pan out, they could have a pretty special season. They could surprise some people.
Well, Kendall swooped in there and stole my answer.
Sorry,
with
I
UConn.
took everybody.
I think UConn's very fascinating if you're looking for a Northeast team. Boston College also, as I mentioned, fascinating Northeast candidate that could be a darling this year. But if you're looking for cold weather teams, I think Indiana. I mean, Michigan we saw play for the national title a couple of years ago. I think Indiana's pitching really gives them a chance. They're very deep on the mound. Keep an eye on Indiana. Keep an eye on Georgia. I'm going to throw this out there. I'm sucking up to the host here. Your alma mater. I know they lost Emerson Hancock and Cole Wilcox, 2 first-round picks. That's why they fell out of the top 25 after ending last season at number 3. If the very talented freshmen, the physical group of freshmen step into the lineup right away and make a difference, Corey Collins and Fernando Gonzalez and, Parks Harbor, it's a really exciting group of freshmen that could kind of give them a boost in the lineup. Then I think they're going to be formidable because that pitching, even without, Wilcox and Hancock, is still very good. I think the rotation with Ryan Webb and Jonathan Cannon and C.J. Smith can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country. So keep an eye on the Bulldogs, kind of flying under the radar this year.
Well, the other thing about Georgia, too, Aaron, is the fact that the last couple of years that people have expected Georgia to be in the Omaha hunt. Now that they're not in the Omaha hunt, at least on paper, you kind of wonder if it's one of those years that surprise some people.
Right. Yeah, well, this is certainly going to be an interesting and exciting year. Super excited for it. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I appreciate your time.